So as you can expect, this is going to be our first roadmap of the year, which is quite exciting. Lots of interesting things to talk about. We will also be recording this and putting out a video probably in a day or two after this. So if you need to go over things, and for the people that couldn't make it, it'll be available on our YouTube. I'll send an email out though, so everyone can get it. If you would like the slides or any other info, I will probably also include that in the follow-up email. Please feel free to put any questions in the Q&A section or even the chat. I'll monitor those directly, and when we've got the opportunity, I'll pose that question. We will have time towards the end for questions as well. So just let us know. Hello, Martin from the US. Good to see you. All right, fantastic, guys. Oh, and Paulo from Portugal. Amazing. Germany, everywhere. Fantastic. Okay, guys, I think let's get started as soon as you're ready. I believe the plan is to do a short recap of 2021, talking about Jakarta EE 10, Payara 6 plans, MicroProfile, Jakarta core profile, the Payara Intelligent platform, dev mode with Payara Tools, a bit on Payara Cloud, and we'll have a little bit on the QA as well. Brilliant. Over to you, Steve.
Okay, thanks, Jaden. So as Jaden says, this is the roadmap presentation for 2022. We tend to do this at the beginning of the year just to give you a sort of more of a general idea of our vision and where we're heading, and also just to sort of recap where we were the previous year. So the agenda, basically, first I'm going to go through 2021, just recap some highlights from Payara, some highlights of some of the features that we developed, and mainly really to put them in context to what we're thinking of doing in 2022. I'm also going to cover Jakarta EE 10 and Payara 6, because a lot of what we do is standards development, and 2022 is shaping up to be a big year in the development of new standards with Jakarta EE 10. So I'm going to cover a bit about the progress on that and the timeline involved in Jakarta EE 10. And then we'll move into the meat of how we see Payara Platform evolving in 2022, talk about the roadmap for Payara 6, and I'll also cover some of the sort of support areas around that and dates around that of when versions come and go out of support. And finally, we'll look at later on in the year and some of the broad sweeps that we'll be addressing as we move later into 2022. So let's go into 2021. You know, a big year for everybody, quite a tough year for everyone. I'm going to go through what we've delivered and put that in context, as I said, for next year. Oh, sorry, this year now. So at a glance, it was a tough year for everyone at Payara, obviously, with pandemic and everybody working in strange ways, and many people having to work away from offices and work remotely. We are and always were a heavily remote company. We transitioned into remote first, which has been brilliant from a hiring point of view, as you can see on here, but also has had challenges for people. So I want to shout out to the team that we actually had a great year under a lot of challenging circumstances. So these are some of the headline sort of data for Payara as a company in general, and Payara Platform in general. So we've actually grown substantially from a revenue perspective. We grew over 30% last year. The platform customers grew 143%, and our users have grown up 36%, and now we're averaging around 88,000 Payara individual organizations, if you like, using the Payara platform in community, across community and enterprise. Payara as a company is still completely funded by our enterprise subscriptions. So what that means is that our customers are the people that provide the money to grow the Payara team and to grow the Payara platform. So we thank our customers and our new customers in 2021. The team itself has grown. The Payara team is now very close to 40 people. I start to lose track of how many people we've got, with people coming and going. But we have now got 14 languages spoken in the organization. We have people in 15 countries. We have now, as I said, moved to a remote first model. You know, even the 3 panelists on here are in 3 different countries. So I'm in Portugal at the minute, Jaden's in the UK, and Rudy's in Belgium. So the team now is very, very global. From our latest hires, we had someone in Indonesia, someone in Brazil, and someone in London, all joining on the same day, which was interesting from a time zone perspective during induction. So Payara is a global company, and we are growing at a good rate. Also, it's a little bit slightly older slide, but we are used globally. We have customers all over the world, and we have community users all over the world. So, as I said, Payara is a global company, and that has just expanded in 2021 with even during the pandemic. So let's have a quick recap on what we delivered on the standards front. Obviously, Payara is a Jakarta EE and MicroProfile platform, first and foremost. A lot of our work is done on standards and updating the platform to the latest standards. And that includes both MicroProfile standards, Jakarta EE standards, and JDK. Probably 70–80% of our developer time is on basically maintaining standards compliance and bringing the latest standards to use developers and users of the Payara platform. So in 2021, quite a lot happened. At the beginning of the year, we delivered MicroProfile 4.0 support, and then in the middle year, 4.1, we tried to track these standards very closely. So we want to be one of the first releases. When the standard comes out, we want to be pretty close to the standard. So we did very well on MicroProfile support at tracking the standard. Jakarta EE came out at the beginning of the year, and we delivered quite quickly a 9 compatible implementation, well, a 9 support, sorry, and compatible implementation later on. Later on in the year, Jakarta EE 9.1 came out, and that was basically an update to run on JDK 11. At that point, we also delivered JDK 17 support in Q4 and Payara 5 community. So we have now a 9.1 compatible implementation, and we have JDK 17 support in the community. Enterprise for JDK 17 will follow a little later, just simply because there's a whole more testing that needs to be done. So to recommend that as a complete upgrade. But we haven't seen any problems at this point. And then moving into this year, so MicroProfile 5 is the MicroProfile version that is baselined against Jakarta EE 9.1. So that is the big namespace shift. And we're about to release MicroProfile 5 support, which I'll come on to in another slide. So a lot of the year is spent building these APIs and supporting the APIs, and also kicking off the initial Payara 6 work, because it's Payara 6 Alpha 1 that was our Jakarta EE 9 compatible implementation. As I said, a lot of work goes into tracking the specifications. A lot of work goes into bringing them into community first, so that you can track the latest specs in your applications. And we think we're pretty good at tracking this and following this. And I'll come on to a little bit more about that later. As I said, Payara 6 Alpha 1 came out in 2021. That is Jakarta EE compatible with 9.1. And it was the very start of our journey to the new namespace. So as everyone possibly knows by now, Jakarta EE, when it moved from 8.1 to 8 to 9, had to change the namespace of all the APIs and to the Jakarta namespace from the JavaX namespace. That is a big lot of work. It's a breaking change, and we targeted that to be fully supported in 6. Mainly because we need to upgrade a lot of the source code within the 6 platform. We've also delivered JDK 17 support. Obviously, 2022 was a big year for, sorry, 2021 was a big year for the JDK, with JDK 17 being the next LTS release. The Payara Platform Community 5 supports JDK 17, and Enterprise will support it as a official supported platform very soon. So that came in as well. So you can run JDK 17 applications on Payara 5 platform, and that will continue obviously in Payara 6. I'm going into some of the other features that we delivered away from standards. We have a vision on auto scaling, which I'll just talk through, and this plays into what we'll be doing in 2022 to some extent. We delivered the first steps of this. One of the things we want to do in Payara is look at the domain model of the application server and see how that adapts into modern compute infrastructure. One of the things that has occurred obviously in the past few years is the revolution in software-defined infrastructure. And what we want to do from a Payara perspective and for Jakarta EE developers is make it easy to leverage that infrastructure and those radical changes in your applications without you having to worry too much about what's going on. So in Payara at the moment, your DAS, you can fire up new instances, you can configure nodes which are effectively mapped to a virtual machine or a physical machine. But what we want to be able to do is basically be able to take advantage of the elasticity of modern software-defined compute to bring that into the domain mode. So we've done some of this work already, and again, this will go into 2022. So the idea is that you have a bunch of compute at the bottom, in compute providers, and that could either be bare metal, which you do at the minute with nodes, virtualization infrastructure, container infrastructure like Kubernetes, or it could be container infrastructure on cloud using cloud APIs, or even VMs on cloud using cloud APIs. So the idea is that you have compute available to you, and basically you want to be able to spin up new compute power on demand. And then further up the stack, we have Payara instances, and we have the concept of a deployment group, which we brought into Payara 5, which is a group of instances where you deploy an application. And what we want to be able to do is scale out that deployment group based on metrics and rules that can be determined by maybe user developer or by the DAS itself by monitoring the state of the instances. And what we would do in that situation when we decide we want to scale out is that we could use the compute provider to provide additional VMs or additional containers or pods or whatever that we wanted. And then that would allow your application to horizontally scale out based on some rules or metrics. For example, you could decide that if the number of sessions or requests against a REST endpoint becomes a certain threshold, that you want to add additional compute onto the infrastructure. And what that means is we go away to a compute provider, spin up or change the number of pods hosting that microservice, or we spin up a VM using a cloud API, and we fire up a new Payara instance hosting your application. And then the other piece related to that would be the ingress side. Obviously, if we spin up a new instance, then that needs to fall into a load balancer, or some API endpoint needs to be updated to tell it to start using the additional backend. So we've done some of this work. We did some initial work in 2021 around being able to scale up and scale down instances on nodes. And we have some work, again, which is sort of related on Kubernetes, which I'll come to the next slide. And one of the things we want to do next year is start building out this, as you'll see, into a more intelligent platform. So we delivered that in 2021. It's probably gone a little unnoticed because it's the building blocks that we're putting in place in Payara 5, but there is capability there now. Second thing we did related to the same sort of topic is we also released a Kubernetes operator. What that does, it sits there and can take in CRD documents and build out a domain and a deployment group and deploy it onto a Kubernetes, and can work with the Kubernetes API to add and configure and roll out a full Payara domain onto Kubernetes. Again, this is some sort of a current point solution that allows you to use the Payara domain model easily within the Kubernetes infrastructure. And it plays into where we're going in 2022 in our vision of an intelligent platform. So the other thing we did in 2021 is we added capabilities to upgrade and revert back to previous versions. So you can use a single AS admin command to download local Payara and upgrade a local distribution, and also, if that doesn't work, to revert it back to a previous version. So this is, again, part of our goal, really, to simplify the Payara experience and to make it much better for operators as well as developers. And again, the reason I'm pulling this out is it's part of the way we're heading in 2022, and part of the vision that we have of how to evolve Payara over the next year or so. Another area that we did quite a bit of work in addition to standards in 2021, was in security improvements. A lot of this is sort of modernization, really, and supporting the latest technology. Again, this is part of, it sort of plays into how we're trying to deliver Payara in 2022. I mean, I won't go into each of the details here because they've been announced in webinars and things like that. But a lot of it is around looking at the ecosystem, looking at technologies that you need to support operationally or as developers, and making sure that the Payara platform gives you capabilities to do so. So, for example, OAuth 2 support and OpenID Connect, obviously, past few years have emerged as security models and sort of semi-standards, if you like. And what we want to do is Payara is to make sure that you can use those technologies as a developer without sort of stepping out of your Jakarta EE comfort zone and having to bring in third-party things, third-party libraries or things like that. And again, upstream in the Jakarta EE working group, it's up to the working group to also define standard APIs for these sort of things so that you can use them, and that links into the work that has to happen that we're heavily involved in the Jakarta working group. So security improvements is one example. In the past, we've done similar things with messaging infrastructure, and I've got a slide which sort of describes how we hope to approach that in 2022. So if we go into Jakarta E10 and Payara 6. So 2022 is going to be a big year for Jakarta EE. Jakarta E10 will be released, and corresponding to that will be Payara 6, because Payara 6 will be our Jakarta E10 compatible implementation. So the timeline for Jakarta E10, I would take some of these actual months probably with a little bit of pinch of salt, but in general, these are where things are currently slated to hit. More likely it will hit those quarters. So February 2022, so basically next month, Jakarta E10 specifications are scheduled to be released. Now, that isn't the whole platform. That is individual specifications like JAX-RS or Jakarta Concurrency have to have final versions available to be picked up by the Jakarta E10 platform during February. So all this work obviously is happening in the Jakarta E working group. So February, the first specifications will start dropping, and that means the API jar, the TCK, the spec document will start appearing first in Jakarta E staging repositories and then into Maven Central as they become released. Not related to Jakarta E10 specifications, but around the same date, we'll be looking to release 6 Alpha 2. So 6 Alpha 2 will be, so this is in community, 6 Alpha 2 in community will be Jakarta EE 9.1 compatible, and it will also be MicroProfile 5 compatible. MicroProfile 5 came out on top of Jakarta 9. So, and once those Jakarta 10 specs start appearing in staging repositories and ultimately in Maven Central, then we want to start picking those up in 6 branch. So as we do that, we aim to put and release an interim release, a beta release around April timeframe. And what that will have is a number of the specifications. We've got another slide which has this in more detail, which you can sort of wait for if you're writing things down. So the beta will have, say, a chunk of specifications. We don't know exactly which ones because we don't know which ones are going to start appearing when. Then May, the whole Jakarta 10 platform in the Eclipse Jakarta working group is currently slated for release to go final. And what we're hoping is that we can have a similar Payara 6 final in community around the same date, or very close to the date of the release of Jakarta 10. So Jakarta 10 to be released has to have a compatible implementation associated with it. Currently, the target for that, I think, is to have Glassfish, but other people are working, including Payara, to be very, very close to that date in case something happens, with a Glassfish release, or we can also be there at the same time. So a lot of our team, for the first 6 months, is going to be working heavily on the Payara 6 Jakarta 10 upgrade. And then in September, we'll be looking to release Payara 6 Enterprise, and that will be fully supported Jakarta 10 compatible implementation. So just to put that into sort of words, we have the Community Alpha 1, which will be which is already released, which is a 9.1 compatible implementation that came out last year. Alpha 2 is going to be due in Q1. That will be 9.1 compatible and MicroProfile 5. And that again will be a community. 6 community beta will be in Q2. That will include the first batch of Jakarta 10 specs. We're also replacing, there's an old Tomcat code base within Payara, and we'll be replacing that. So that work has to be done as well. Then the final will be scheduled to go out very close to the Jakarta 10 release, or on the Jakarta 10 release, depending how well we do and when that is. So that's coming out in Q2, and then basically 1 quarter later, Enterprise Final will come out, and that will be a EE10 compatible implementation. Enterprise, when that comes out, needs to support deploying old EE8 applications, because obviously not everybody has EE10 applications. So that work will be done in Enterprise up to Q3. So currently, and how we see this working is Payara 5 at the moment, what we say is it supports EE9. That is because you can deploy Jakarta 9 applications into Payara 5. It transforms those applications into an old EE8 application, because there's not any new capabilities in EE9 over EE8. It's just a namespace change. Then what we can do is transform it into an EE8 application. It can't. So Payara 5 is not a compatible implementation, simply because some of the tests that you have to pass do class name checks, and it is an EE8 runtime, so it will fail those tests. But from all intents and purposes, we support you deploying Jakarta 9 applications into the Payara platform in version 5. And we consider it a bug if an application doesn't deploy, and we have some edge cases that we work on now and then where people raise them and we fix them. For Payara 6, as I said, will be an EE10 runtime. It'll be the code within Payara will be in the Jakarta namespace where it relates to Jakarta specifications. And Payara 6 will also this Payara 6 Enterprise will also be able to deploy Jakarta E8 applications. And we'll have to do a lot of work to make sure that your E8 applications run well on 6 Enterprise, because as to upgrade, you will probably have some applications that you need to run on the new platform. So how does that sort of fit into a support lifecycle if we're bringing out a new major? So this illustrates it. Again, the exact months may change, but it'll be roughly around these quarters, depending on when EE10 ships, which is obviously not in our control. So Payara community, if we assume that EE10 drops in May and we have a Payara 6 final in May, then community will switch to basically the master branch of community code will switch to Payara 6 and Jakarta E10 at that point in time. For enterprise, well, Payara 4 is still in support and still in maintenance. That is a Java EE, that can run Java E7 applications, and that goes end of life in a couple of years. So that still supports Java 8, and that goes end of life 2025, so 3 years yet. So Payara 5, when we basically released it back in, I think, 2018 or something like that, then we have a 10-year life cycle. So Payara 5 doesn't enter maintenance until February 2023. And what maintenance means is that major features stop going into it, but we still do updates, bug fixes, platform certifications for the latest Java versions, and database drivers, and infrastructure, operating systems, those sort of things. So it'll stay in maintenance again right through to 2028. So it's not as if that you will need to migrate rapidly away from Payara 5 when Payara 6 comes out. If we assume Payara 6 comes out in 2022, in Q3 enterprise, then that will be in support for another 10 years. So that comes out into 2032. So a lot of time to factor in your migration from JAVX to Jakarta. Okay, so that's a recap, and I'll go into how that plays into 2022. So first, Payara is a Jakarta EE runtime, and we are a Jakarta EE company. So as a company, where we want to position ourselves is we want to be first for Jakarta EE developers. So if you're a developer on Jakarta EE, we want you to choose the Payara platform. That sort of goes without saying. Second, we also committed to Jakarta EE. That means that we are working and want to drive and evolve Jakarta EE upstream in the Eclipse Foundation. We want to make sure that EE10 comes out and we support it quite rapidly. We also want to drive forward EE11, 12, 13 in the future to make sure that this is a future platform for your applications and for people to choose when developing new applications. So that is first and foremost one of our priority as a company and as a software platform. As I said, what we want to do as well, part of that is to make sure that you as developers can take an application and use the latest, greatest other stuff over and above Payara that you need to within your applications. So that means both modernizing Jakarta EE upstream in the Eclipse Foundation if we need new APIs. For example, APIs have been proposed around gRPC, and APIs have been proposed around NoSQL and things like that, or whatever else happens within the Jakarta EE working group. So that's part of it. The other part of it is making sure that you can speak to and use all the other things that you need to use from your applications. So make sure you can deploy it on cloud or in containers. Make sure you can integrate with the latest DevOps pipelines. Make sure you can use it for different sort of modes of operation, including IoT or whatever else comes out. So again, that is a key point of Payara platform, in that it is a runtime for your applications, and it's our job as a runtime is to support the different infrastructure. So what we want you to be able to do is basically take a Jakarta application and you not worry too much about the sort of compute that you're running it on or the sort of things that you need to integrate it with. So, our vision is that you write a WAR file and then you can deploy it on anything from, say, a very small device right up to a hybrid cloud environment, potentially across different cloud infrastructure and different cloud availability zones. So we're talking going right from small devices through containers, through virtualization, through orchestration platforms like Kubernetes onto full-on cloud platforms. And we want to provide the platform that allows you to take your application and with minimal changes, drop it onto a different runtime. That's key to the whole Jakarta vision right back from the days in the Java EE days, is that you're separating deployment from developing your application. And I think it's a key differentiator for Jakarta EE as a platform in general. We also want to bring in simplicity. One of the things we know that things like Payara look really complicated, but simplicity doesn't just mean sort of administration or development. It also means making sure that we have guides, documentation, videos, tutorials, training, getting started, wizards, things like that we want to bring in to make life easier to drive adoption of Jakarta EE and then hopefully Payara. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, we want to make sure that you can simply deploy to lots of different compute infrastructure and other infrastructure, as we'll see in another slide. And again, simplicity. So a lot of what we're aiming for in the next release is simplicity for you as developers and for operations people. Simplicity in the first glance, but still having the power and capabilities of the underlying platform. So we're wrapping some of this up into what we're calling intelligent platform. So Jakarta EE, as I said, one of the key differentiators is it separates application from runtime. And what we think we can do as a runtime is give you a lot of information and a lot of analytics and things. In the same way, when you run on a JVM, as opposed to compiling a piece of C code, you get a lot of capabilities from the JVM runtime that you wouldn't get if you had just a native application. So current state is we have a whole chunk of stuff for monitoring and tracking what is occurring in your applications. And that is complicated. You're possibly not aware of all of it. And it's all configured in different ways as it comes from different generations of both Glassfish back in the day and then Payara. For example, we have JMX metrics. They've come way back from Glassfish 2-3 days. You can access them through JConsole, but at the same time you can get the same metrics from a REST interface. You can access a REST interface and slash monitoring, and you can get the same metrics. And you can get it a different way through logging through another JMX monitor, which will spit out log messages. You can get it through a Jalokia interface. So Jalokia compliant interface. All these things, as I say, a little bit disparate. And then further up, we have things like MP metrics where you can build your own metrics. And then we have notifiers currently where you can spit out messages into different subsystems, different APM tools, SNMP traps, things like that. And we have tracing. So we have request tracing where you can decide, you can trace requests through the system, and if the one exceeds a certain lifetime, then it will notify you and it will give you, what events occurred within your application, so that you can then drill down to decide, where it was slow or whatever. Similar for SQL, we have thing where it will spot slow SQL queries and surface them up to you. And then we have an admin interface on that called Payara Insight, which came out, the past couple of years. Our goal really in the intelligent platform is to use what we have, but also bring it into a single coherent, unified, simplified infrastructure, so that as a Jakarta EE runtime, we can give you the information you need as a developer or an operator to tune your applications or tune your infrastructure. So we're splitting this into, first, we need to capture. So we capture everything. We have many ways of capturing at the minute, but if we can simplify the collection and configuration of the capture side, then that makes it a lot easier for users. And also, if we can have standard defaults, be opinionated about what you should be capturing and what you shouldn't, or what you should capture, out the box, then we'll unify that under capture. Then we need to expose that. We have Payara Insight to visualize, as we'll come up to, but also obviously every organization has different tools and needs to expose them into APM tools, into things like Prometheus or Grafana or whatever it is that you need to suck data in. As a developer, you're probably happy to use Payara's visualization, but if you go into an enterprise infrastructure, there may be specific tools that you have to expose data into and you don't get a choice. So exposing that data then out to different tools is key. And then on top of that, sort of basics, if you like, capturing and exposing metrics and traces, we also want to add in some intelligent analytics. So you start analyzing and providing, the next level up, which is guided tuning and self-tuning. So we want to give you more in-depth analysis of your application and how it's operating, and sort of target you and guide you towards the best ways to tune or modify applications to get the best out of the platform. And we're also looking at self-tuning for some things so that you don't have to tune specific subsystems, that they can tune themselves, or they can suggest that you press this button and take on their suggestions to tune. Because I know some people would be nervous about letting it do it itself in operations. And then again, on top of that, we want to provide a level of visualization within the platform itself, so that you don't have to set up third-party tools. And also, as a developer, that means it's all rapidly available, pre-configured, and you can see insights straight away into what's occurring in your applications before so you don't have to go off to operations to provision Prometheus or something like that. So related to intelligent platform as well, and the auto scaling. So if we can gather the metrics, analyze DAS, then we can also look at scale out, never mind just sort of tuning an individual VM of individual application, but scaling out the infrastructure as a whole. So another key point that we're looking at is separating sort of core and being into all the other things that you need to talk to. So that's security, connectors, databases, messaging infrastructure, orchestrators like Kubernetes. And basically, we plan to be opinionated and support what we, the best APIs, the most relevant infrastructure and the most relevant and emerging technologies that are out there, and provide you with the things that you need to talk to them as an application developer. And that is part of our vision of basically giving you a sort of opinionated platform that can allow you to work through all the cloud of possibilities that are out there and choose things that we have capabilities for and that are likely to be the things that meet your needs. So the way we see it is there's a whole pile of stuff on the left, components and standards and APIs that are being generated out in the open source. And what we want to do as Payara Enterprise Platform is take that stuff and build it, test it, QA it, and integrate it into the platform so that we basically can deliver an integrated Payara Enterprise that you can then be confident that you can take and deliver your applications on without too much complexity. So it's much more simple as a developer to utilize the infrastructure, the compute infrastructure, the ecosystem that you live in, and put it and present it to you in a Jakarta EE way, if you like, so that you can bring it into your applications. And then we would ship that as Payara Platform. again, we are super focused on making sure that that platform supports mission critical workloads. So always focused on scalability, availability, performance, all the non-functional requirements, and making sure that and being conscious of that Payara is running mission critical workloads for you out there. And therefore, along with simplification, we need to deliver non-functionals as well. So this sort of feeds into our philosophy of the differences between Payara Enterprise and Payara Community. So Payara Community, we see very much as building that core Jakarta EE MicroProfile runtime. So Payara Community, as you've seen in the timeline, will track the standards very closely and will aim to hit the latest standards and latest APIs as fast as possible after the release, within the upstream communities that we work in, like MicroProfile and Jakarta EE and others potentially in the future. So it's very focused on that, bringing that innovation to you as fast as possible so you can try the new APIs and start building applications on them. Enterprise, we're very much focused on those pillars that you saw in the the previous slide. So scalability, availability, mission critical workloads. It won't track the standards as fast as community because we want to make sure that if we're building new implementations, that they are scalable and they meet the needs of if you're going to use them in mission critical environments. And we're not building a sort of feature function difference or planning to build a massive feature function difference between community and enterprise, but what we are doing is enterprise will be focused on those mission critical environments with stability and long software life cycles. Community is about tracking the core standards, functionality and runtimes. So in APIs to make sure that we can get those out as fast as possible to you in development environments. And then, when you come to take that application with the new APIs and you want to run it in production, then we want you to be running on Payara Enterprise. Even for the simple fact, we are funded by our customers, and the more enterprise customers we get, then the more community development we can do, and more we can track these standards. So that's our philosophy between how the two different communities work together. So onto the core roadmap for the platform. So first half of the year, as I said, there's a lot going on with Jakarta, and the team will be super focused on delivering Jakarta E10 capabilities into the Payara 6. I said 6 alpha will come out in Q1. We're hoping 6 community final, which will be Jakarta E10 compatible, will come out in Q2. Again, that'll come out in community first. As I said, the community stream will be delivering innovation and the new APIs faster than enterprise. Our goal is to get enterprise 6 out in Q3, and that'll depend a lot on making sure that everything is that you can take that platform and deploy onto mission critical applications on that and mission critical Jakarta E10 applications, but also mission critical Jakarta E8 applications deploy final 6 before 6 enterprise will hit. We'll also throughout we'll be obviously doing the usual activities, bug fixes, updates, component upgrades. These aren't obviously on the map, but Q3 will be hoping to make significant progress on Intelligent Platform and start unifying the metrics and subsystems and monitoring and alerting subsystems within Payara Platform and deliver that significant capabilities in Q3. Q4, we are focused on developer experience. So we're looking at building a developer mode. We have capabilities for developers now. Again, similar to Intelligent Platform, we have some capabilities that aren't unified around hot reload within IDEs, touching a exploded WAR so that it redeploys. We have these capabilities already, and what we're bringing into Q4 will be fully fledged developer mode for that to make life easier, and that again will be focused around tooling as well. Something that I haven't talked too much about in Jakarta E10 is that we have there's a core profile coming out. we don't know when it's going to drop, so we will support core profile, and we put that in Q4 because we don't really know when core profile is going to drop from a Jakarta EE perspective. Initially, we'll probably support that through Payara Micro, depending again what happens upstream on the capabilities of core profile. We may create another third runtime specifically for core profile if core profile is has other capabilities that makes it necessary to do that. But we are ready to do that if needed. And then finally, we move on to Payara Cloud. So Payara Cloud, again, as part of that ability to deploy applications on any infrastructure, we are getting very close to shipping Payara Cloud, and that essentially will allow you to just take a WAR file and deploy it onto basically a cloud infrastructure. We have done videos on this, and we've done demos, and basically we've got a link there to a video, but what it allows you to do is you take a WAR file, upload it as if you would do to an admin console on Payara, and it'll be running on a cloud infrastructure. So it will create all the DNS, the TLS certificates, create pods, create monitoring and dashboards, and get it running on a cloud infrastructure in seconds. So I wanted to go a little bit into the roadmap of this. So this will ship in Q1. Also in Q1 on the roadmap for Payara Cloud, we should be shipping what we call in CLI, but it's interfaces to integrate Payara Cloud with DevOps and GitOps pipelines. Out of the box, first release will likely you'll upload a WAR file and you can deploy it. As we move into CLI, then you'll also be able to integrate that upload into GitOps and DevOps pipelines. So that's the first major release after launch. Second quarter, we'll be focusing on clustering and account management. Account management is more about multi-user, adding adding capabilities for multiple users to use the platform. Currently, it'll be one login, but also allowing preferences and things for the CLI. That will also include clustering, which will basically auto-scaling clustering is what we mean, so that you'll be able to set and trigger expansions and shrinkage of a cluster of Payara Cloud instances. And the first release that you'll have preset. Then Q3, we're looking at zero downtime upgrades of applications. So that will be currently when you add an application, there'll be a delay as the application is redeployed. Similar to on Payara, this will be rolling upgrades, red, green deployments, those sort of things. That is planned in Q3. And in Q4, we are looking to create a installable version of Payara Cloud. So in the first version, it's a PaaS infrastructure that you will be using. In later versions, we'll be looking to release the software as something that you can install into your own Kubernetes clusters. So Payara Cloud sits on top of Kubernetes. So at the end of 2022, we're looking to release that as a whole infrastructure piece of software that you could use and deploy and into your own Kubernetes infrastructure. So Payara Cloud has a roadmap that's developing and is looking really exciting as a sort of next generation way of deploying to cloud infrastructure. And that should be coming down to the point where you can install it natively yourself in the end of 2022. So if you're interested in Payara Cloud, then there is a site on our website. You can sign up, and we are getting very close to inviting people to register and get onto the GA version of, or the GA is in the sense that it's shipped onto the infrastructure version of Payara Cloud. Okay, thank you. Jaden, is there any questions?
Yeah, Rudy has been answering a couple as we've been going, actually. But we just had a question from Colos. It is, hello, how mature can we consider the usage of JDK 17 apps in Payara 5 currently? Is it safe to upgrade, or does it still need more testing / compatibility features?
So I don't know if Rudy can pick that because he's more aware of any reports, but I'm not aware of anything significant.
I was actually just typing the answer when you came to the end of your presentation. So indeed, I was thinking about answering it live then. Yes, JDK 17 support is mature in Payara 5, so everything is working except when lesser used enterprise feature around the remote EGVs and Corba. So that's also the reason why we are still working on the JDK 17 support for enterprise. But yes, if you think that you should upgrade to JDK 17, then it is fine to do so with Payara 5 as it is today.
Yeah, and that issue is an edge case. It's not.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
So it's not like it doesn't work. It's like it's a specific edge case.
Great. Carlos has another question as well. Regarding Payara 6, from what I get, the expectation for it is Jakarta 10, MP5, and Payara Insight. What more features can we expect?
So the first release, it will be Jakarta 10, MP5. Then from a feature perspective, what Insight really is doing is unifying a lot of the capabilities, as I said, around monitoring, alerting, and all that. So you should see a much more intelligent runtime in 6 as it develops during 2022, so that it is providing more capabilities to you as a developer. What that means is it should be easy to configure. It should give you more information and more guides into how your applications are running. We should see, development of that into auto scaling as well. Other features in particular will be around the other slide that I showed around infrastructure and choosing which APIs and other ecosystems that we would support, ecosystem components like security connectors, things like that, and tracking those that we need to support. Don't know if Rudy, you got any other thing on that?
No, it's around those things. And there are a lot of features except those about outside of those standards which are related to that intelligent platform, so that everything is easier to handle and to maintain, as you mentioned, Steve.
And then obviously unifying and reworking on developer mode and making sure that improves from where it is at the moment to make life easier from a development cycle.
Carlos also asks, personal curiosity of mine, did you end up replacing Weld for HK2? Is that still up? Idea still up, and in what way?
Okay, I can pick that up in that we haven't yet. So core profile is what is driving that decision. So depending on how core profile shapes up and shapes up, and the requirements of core profile will depend on what we do on some of the kernel aspects of the application server.
Yeah, because we see actually the opposite direction going on, that the interest in HK2 is dropping. Also, for instance, Jersey will be dropping the requirement for using HK2, so that it probably will be maybe the other way around, that we are replacing HK2 with Weld instead of replacing Weld with HK2. But that's all depending on what core profile will bring us.
Yeah, so we're tracking core profile closely, and then that determines our kernel decision. But a lot of this will be, well, it should be totally transparent to developers.
Okay. Mario asks, what will be the minimum JDK on Payara 6?
11.
Yes, Payara 6. Payara 6 is built on JDK 11, so So it cannot run JDK8 applications anymore. So it will be JDK 11 and Jakarta EE 10.
Okay, brilliant. Angelo asks, Payara 6 exposes EJB over gRPC without adding skeleton code, like stateless EJB annotation, question mark. Sorry if I...
You can pick up that, Rudy, because you know.
Well, there are two directions around gRPC support. One thing is that we have for our Payara 5 enterprise customers already the capability of creating gRPC endpoints, and those gRPC endpoints are integrated within the enterprise framework. So that means that you can access EJB, CDI beans, use JPA, etc. So that's all integrated. But that's for Payara 5 enterprise users. And the second direction is that on the Jakarta side, there will be a standard called Jakarta gRPC, which will define how gRPC will be handled within the Jakarta world. And that's something that we need to follow up. But also there, we have no idea if it will be this year or something next year, which comes out of that discussion.
Fantastic. Carlos asks, something more directly related to Java itself. How are you expecting some new features like Loom to be implemented in Payara?
So we've experimented with Loom. I mean, Loom, when it comes out, we'll support it. Potentially, what we need to do is do quite a lot of tests on it. I've heard some things around Loom not supporting deep stack traces too well, things like that. So the idea would be, if it makes sense, then it'll be absolutely supported within the Payara platform, and our core kernel would be using Loom or have the option to use Loom. That will depend on, say, performance and stability tests and those sort of things.
Okay. Edward asks, hi, about dropping Tomcat, can you provide more details about that? It's quite soon on your roadmap. Have you already started work on that, which we can test? Last year, January, you mentioned going with Grizzly. Is that still the case?
Probably not. We did already start on that work. So we are dropping the old Tomcat Catalina code, which we have in the Payara code base, and replace it with the standard Tomcat Catalina dependency. So, and since we are just importing a dependency, we don't expect that it will take much time. So you probably, as mentioned in the presentation, can test it out in the beta version, which is planned later on in a few months.
And that shouldn't have any impact on any developers.
And that indeed, the developer should not notice anything.
Okay. And last one from Carlos. Are you planning, or does it even make sense, meddling with native images that have been making Quarkus popular?
Okay, I'll pick that up because there's a bullet on the end there on Q4, which was core profile support. So native images. So we have space in the roadmap to do a core profile product that could support native images. So what we are really doing is it depends on how core profile develops and what's in it and the desire to do that. And I say initially Payara Micro would be our first core profile implementation, but that doesn't support native images. Then we'll look at whether there is a implementation that we can do that would support compilation to native images. We're sort of partially a little bit ambivalent towards native images in that, you know, you can lose a lot of the benefits of the intelligent platform. You can lose a lot of benefits of the JVM for marginal gains on compute and memory usage. Marginal in the sense of how much it costs you in a Kubernetes environment or a cloud environment. So monetary gains, but we are looking at it, and it won't be like Payara Micro. That would be the native image product. It would be something else, but I'm not making promises that we have got one or we will have one. Do you want to add anything, Rudy?
No, nothing to add to that for the moment.
Okay, I think that is everything. Through it. Yeah, no more questions.
Thank
Fantastic. Well, thank you all very much. Thanks for joining and staying in for the extra questions. You can find us on Twitter, on Meetup, on YouTube. If you head to our website, you can find all the links. And what I'll be doing is putting up this this presentation onto a video onto our YouTube channel for any of those who missed it or want to rewatch it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.